stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. We'll start off with item number 3. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Last time. Is there any public comment? Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll move on to item number 4. Approve minutes from the January 26, 2016 Ordinance Committee meeting. That was not in your packets, but it was passed out to you tonight as you came in.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Karen. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item, item number 5, approve minutes from the February 2nd, 2016 regular meeting. Have a motion to do so? Motion by Nicole, second by Anne Marie. Under discussion, Len did email in some changes, which I believe Rory has, and we'll pass on for update. Is there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I do have one.
Go on.
I did mention in the email that I was going to bring it up, but the word "she" is inserted after the end of Kimberly Dolka's public comment. I don't know if that's a hanging sentence, if there was actually something else that's supposed to go in there, if that's just supposed to get out, but I'm not sure if it was substantive or not, but I wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
So, we may want to remove it, or if there's something else to be added, add it.
Okay. And if you can just double check that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's on page 1. Item 3, first paragraph, right at the very bottom. Okay, any other comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 6 for Selectmen's report. I attended the Governor's Economic Development Forum today with Fred Masori. We both found the meeting very informative and look forward to attending more sessions in the future. Attended CCM's Legislative Committee meeting as well as the Executive Board meeting last week. During these meetings, we finalized our legislative agenda for the upcoming session. I'll be reviewing these items with our state delegation over the next 2 weeks with individual meetings and ask that they support these initiatives that will benefit not only Seymour, but all the towns and cities in Connecticut. I've been reappointed and attended the first meeting of the year for CCM's Sustainability Task Force. As a part of this group, I expect to gain valuable knowledge that will benefit Seymour and assist us in our push for more sustainability projects. As an update, carriers have until the end of this week to respond to the RFP that was put out regarding the town's health insurance coverage. I'm still expecting preliminary results by the end of the month from our broker, Lockton. Discussions with Ansonia are ongoing regarding potential shared services. I'll give a better update on this later on in the agenda. Tony DePrimo started today as the new Public Works Director. I introduced him officially to the men this afternoon. He did come in for a few days last week to meet some people and to familiarize himself with our operations, which will allow him to hit the ground running with the men tomorrow morning. I, like all of you, have very high expectations for Tony. Discussions regarding the move to Town Hall being open 5 days a week are ongoing. I reached out and had discussions with representatives from both unions as well as the full staff. I am reviewing 2 potential options at this point that I think may work, and we'll bring those to the board. I expect for the second meeting in March. We are still targeting a May 2nd, 2016 start date for the 5-day work week. The budget process continues to be moving along with workshops ongoing. As an update, I am scheduled to present my overall budget along with the financial state of the town on a new date. It's now going to be Thursday, March 3rd, so if everybody wants to make note of that. The change is being driven by the need to finalize the income side of the budget, as we won't have all of the needed numbers in by the original presentation date. There's been a little bit of a delay with all of the assessed numbers. There's been some issues, as you've heard, with Department of Motor Vehicle and getting those numbers out correctly. Plus, I want to wait an extra week just to see what the legislature, or if we can get some word out of the legislature as to what they may do versus what the governor has already presented. And then finally, I'm happy to announce that the lawsuit filed by former Detective Sergeant Ronald Goodmaster versus the town of Seymour, the Board of Selectmen, Lucy McConnell, Michael Metzler, and myself has been won by the town. The judge granted summary judgment in favor of all the defendants in the town. Going forward, myself, Rich, and Michael Rose, who is legal counsel for our insurance company, we will be looking at all legal options available to us to try to recoup any and all costs associated with this frivolous lawsuit. So that was something that has been hanging over the town's head for quite some time, and it was certainly very pleasing to be proven that this board did nothing incorrectly. So with that, I will close the first Selectmen's report. Item number 7, presentation from Solar City. We're going to table that to our next meeting. Okay, I have a motion to table, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Len, second by Anne Marie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Item number 8, discussion and take possible action regarding Seymour High School softball field lights bid. In front of you, in your packets, you should have a letter from Nafis and Young. It's regarding field lighting for the softball field at Seymour High School. Dear Mr. Miller, Nafis and Young Engineers Incorporated opened the bids for the above referenced project on January 20th, 2016. There were 2 bidders, Shock Electrical Contractors Incorporated, an amount of $141,540, and Paramount Electric in the amount of $173,800. The Seymour Softball Committee voted to forward a recommendation of approval of the bid by Shock Electric Contractors Incorporated to the Board of Selectmen. Please accept this letter as a request by the committee to approve the bid by Shock Electrical Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $141,540 for the field lighting at the softball field at Seymour High School. Should you have any questions, I could be reached at, so on and so forth. Sincerely, James H. Galligan from Nafis and Young. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the Seymour Softball Lights Committee and Nafis and Young engineer Jim Galligan to award the project to Shock Electrical Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $141,540.
So moved.
Motion by Len, second by Anne Marie. Is there any discussion?
Have we done any work with this contractor before?
No.
And there are only 2 bidders.
They were the only 2 bidders, yes.
Any reason why there's only 2?
I think some of this is specialty work that not as many people would do, or that
Do
as many
lights?
people, the wiring and things like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Was
No,
there
I'm not buying that.
was there a ballpark number beforehand, and does this fall within that, or is this kind of just we take their word for it?
Take whose word for it? The committees?
Well, no, just the bidders. I mean, did we have any kind of idea
Nafis and
going
Young.
in?
Nafis and Young would review that and go over that with the committee.
Yeah, but if they're confident in it, we could be pretty confident in it.
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, that is the charge of the committee, to make sure that, that the numbers make sense and they match with the preliminary budget. So,
Has Jim indicated that they've worked with other municipalities in the past recently and did quality work?
he has not. This is all, the only recommendation that we have.
$30,000 spread, I'm just curious as to why.
Jim has dug into a lot of these since we've had the one issue we had 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. So I would feel confident, but that's up to this board. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Okay, item number 9, discussion, take possible action regarding small cities consultant RFQ. We have one RFQ that has come in. Open that up. RFQ is by Lisa Lowe and Associates. Lisa's here tonight, so Lisa's our existing, Dr. Lowe is our existing provider for this. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to pass the RFQs along to the town manager for operation and grants, Deidre Caruso, to review with town council to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. And Roy, if you can give that to Dee. Perfect. Okay. Item number 10, discussion, take possible action, item number 10, discussion, take possible action regarding small cities resolution. In your packet, we have a resolution to go through. I'll read that into the record. Whereas federal monies are available under the Connecticut Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program, administered by the State of Connecticut Department of Housing pursuant to Public Law 93-383 as amended, and whereas pursuant to Chapter 127C and Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the Commissioner of Housing is authorized to disperse such federal monies to local municipalities, and whereas it is desirable and in the public interest that the town of Seymour make application to the state for $400,000 in order to undertake a small cities community development program and to execute an assistance agreement, therefore should one be offered. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen that one, that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites of state assistance imposed by Part 6 of Chapter 130 of the Connecticut General Statutes, and number two, that the filing of an application by the town of Seymour in an amount not to exceed $400,000 is hereby approved, and that W. Kurt Miller, the first selectman of the town of Seymour, is hereby authorized and directed to file such application with the Commissioner of the Department of Housing to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required by the Commissioner, to execute an assistance agreement with the State of Connecticut for state financial assistance if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, recessions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of Seymour. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved.
You guys are making it tough.
Aye.
Motion by Karen, second by Len.
Oh, that was Stefan.
That was, okay, motion by Stefan, second by Len. We'll go with the ends of the table. Just under discussion, Lisa, anything you wanted to add? No?
We're here for any questions that anybody really wants to ask.
Okay. Anybody have any comments, thoughts? I know we just covered it, Bob. Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thanks a lot for all your help, Lisa. Excuse me, Dr. Love. Okay, discussion, take possible action, no, item number 11, discussion, take possible action regarding NVCOG Regional Performance Initiative Resolution. You have a packet of information inside your packet that talks about the two issues at hand with some summary information. I just want to go over those quick before we move to the resolution, and Rich, you can weigh in at any point if you want to. The two things that, well, let me take a step back. As we've talked about, the COG is working very hard at shared services, trying to combine things where we can, where we think it makes sense to benefit all 19 towns or some of the 19 towns where possible. And the two things that we're looking at now, number one, is a regional approach to the way we do revaluation. And to do that, we need to take a look at getting all 19 towns on the same type of system so we can start standardizing the way we do our mapping, our GIS, and things like that. When we were the Valley COG, we worked very hard on that with the 4 towns all being very similar. But now that we've graduated up to the 19 towns, we're looking to do the same thing. And then also the second part is a wastewater regionalization feasibility study, which initially was going to be between the towns of Ansonia and Derby. Derby initially had backed out. Seymour at that point stepped in. It was announced at the COG meeting that this was taking place. Beacon Falls and Naugatuck also jumped in, and then Derby came back. So we now have kind of 2 levels of this study that will take place. So it'll be between Ansonia, Derby, and Seymour, and then between Beacon Falls and Naugatuck. Seymour will also be reviewed a little bit with Beacon Falls and Naugatuck, as I feel that's a better fit. So with that being said, I'll read the resolution, and then we will open it up to any comments that anyone may have. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion for a resolution of endorsement and authorization for the Regional Performance Incentive Program proposals listed below, referenced in Connecticut General Statute Section 4-124S, the 2014 supplement. Number 1, implement regional municipal property revaluation and CAMA procurement program, standardize and centralize parcel data management and hosting. And number 2, wastewater regionalization feasibility study, including primary demonstration project feasibility study of consolidation, the Ansonia, Derby, Seymour water pollution control facilities, and the secondary demonstration project feasibility study to include the Beacon Falls and Naugatuck wastewater treatment facilities in regional consolidation. In addition, the Board of Selectmen authorizes W. Kurt Miller, first Selectman, to act on this endorsement by signing all necessary agreements and take all necessary actions related to this proposal to enter into a binding agreement with the Office of Policy and Management according to the terms of the RPI grant program. I have a motion to accept the resolution as
So
presented.
moved.
Motion by Len, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Item number 12, discussion, possible action regarding Girl Scouts proclamation. Okay. So we have a proclamation celebrating 104 years of Girl Scouting. Whereas March 12, 2016 marks the 104th anniversary of the Girl Scouts of the United States of America, which began in 1912 when Savannah, Georgia native Juliet Gordon Lowe gathered 18 girls to provide them the opportunity to develop physically, mentally, and spiritually. Whereas 1912 was also the year in which Girl Scouting started in the state of Connecticut. Whereas for more than 100 years, Girl Scouting has helped build millions of girls and women of courage, confidence, and character who act to make the world a better place. And whereas the Girl Scout leadership experience helps girls discover themselves and their value, connect with others, and take action to make the world a better place. And whereas, through the dedication, time, and talent of volunteers of different backgrounds, abilities, and areas of expertise, Girl Scouts of Connecticut offers the Girl Scout leadership experience to more than 35,000 girls in grades K through 12 across the state of Connecticut. And whereas, the Girl Scout Gold Award, the highest honor in Girl Scouting, celebrating its 100th year, requires girls to make a measurable and sustainable difference in their community, assesses a need and design a solution, find the resources and support to make it happen, and complete the project. Whereas core programs around environmental stewardship, anti-bullying techniques, science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM curriculum, and healthy living help girls develop a solid foundation in leadership. And whereas today more than 59 million American women are Girl Scout alumni and 2.7 million girls and adult volunteers are active members, now therefore I, W. Kurt Miller, by virtue of the authority vested in me as first selectman of the town of Seymour, do hereby applaud the Girl Scouts of the United States of America for more than 100 years of leadership and expertise as the voice for and of girls, proudly proclaim March 12, 2016 as Girl Scout Day. Can I have a motion to accept the proclamation as read?
So moved.
Motion by Anne Marie, second by Nicole. Is there any discussion? Sorry?
We should have the Girl Scouts maybe do that.
That's true. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Rory, what did they say we're to do with the proclamation? Because to that point, maybe for our next meeting, we have the Girl Scouts come, and we present the actual proclamation to them in the beginning of this, beginning of the agenda.
I want to bring cookies.
And Karen requests cookies,
Put it in the freezer, Karen. It's okay, I'll bring them right back to you.
Karen requests Thin Mints specifically.
I don't have Thin Mints, those go in my house just like that.
I had 4 boxes and gracefully internate them all. Okay, yep. Item number 13, discussion, take possible action regarding Seymour ambulance tax abatement. In your package, you have a letter to myself. It says, Dear Kurt, enclosed, please find the list of tax abatement recipients for 2016. You will see there are 7 members who are Seymour residents that qualify for the tax abatement. Also, please note, Emily Baldwin and Amanda Skellington currently lease their vehicles and do not pay taxes directly to the town. Last year, consideration was given for this by the Board of Selectmen, and the town agreed to reimburse them for their tax expenses. I request the same consideration be given again this year. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your time and support to the Seymour Ambulance. Sincerely, Jonathan Leveloso, I never say his name right, John is, he's the president of the Board of Directors, and he is acting as chief executive until a new executive director is hired. So again, if everybody can flip to the second page, you can see the membership and the amounts. Okay. That being said, I'll entertain a motion to accept the Seymour Ambulance tax abatement recipients for 2016 list as requested and as presented.
So,
Second.
second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Len. Is there any discussion? Everyone's okay with all the requests?
Yeah.
Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The chair votes aye. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is item number 14, discussion, take possible action regarding potential ordinance changes for blight, noise, and adult business. Okay, let's go through these kind of one at a time. And just so everyone knows, what we'll do is Nicole, myself, and Karen will listen to thoughts and comments that you have based on what we heard from the residents tonight. We're working on scheduling an ordinance committee meeting for next week. At that point, the three of us will dig into the ordinances, and when we come back to the selectmen at the next time, we'll have a red-lined copy of the ordinance with changes that Rich will put together for us. We will review that as a board. We will make determinations, we'll have conversation. Once we've settled on this as a board of selectmen, at that point, we will establish another town hearing. At that town hearing, we will let residents comment specifically on the changes that we are putting forward, and then we'll go from there. So, what comments does any board member have on any of the three ordinances?
Well, I think in light of, some of the comments we heard about blight, there's definitely some question as to whether or not our wording is the right way to go. And maybe that requires a little bit more thought. I'm kind of interested and intrigued in the fact that I guess some of the recommendations were actually pulled out of the blight ordinance in previous years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might make sense to review that and maybe go back through and find out why. I mean, we've heard some of the reasons, but I'm sure that some of the debate that occurred, I think it was in 2009,
Yep.
which was the reference point. It may make sense for us to actually take a look and see what the debate was back then and kind of how they got to the point where they got to remove those pieces of the ordinance. With regard to the noise ordinance, I can speak from personal experience that I've actually had to call on neighbors myself for professional grade fireworks. And I lucked out. I actually called and the police came and they were still setting them off when the police came and stopped it. But most people, as was pointed out by, I forget the gentleman's name.
Jim Buckwell.
Buckwalter, yeah, Mr. Buckwalter. For the most part, if you see a cop driving down the road, you stop doing what you're doing and there's nothing that can be done.
Right.
If the town of Meriden, as he referenced the town of Meriden, if their ordinance is better than ours, maybe that's a consideration. It's never gonna be a perfect solution to this, but.
I think the issue with our ordinance, or particularly Mr. Buckwalter's issue, is the actual enforcement of the issue, and he has kind of a unique situation. As he mentions, and Rich, stop me if I'm saying something I shouldn't, he did say that the person in question is a Seymour police officer. So that person obviously has a scanner and can hear the calls coming in.
Sure.
When the call was made, they stop playing. The police officer gets there. There's no violation because there's no sound. The thing I pull most out of his comments is more the quality of life issue. We talk in our ordinance specifically about decibel levels.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have the sound meter, I should say, to read the sound, who knows what the decibel level is. And it could still be within the required limits, but still be a quality of life issue.
That is the major enforcement issue.
Right.
These noise ordinances were first put on the books in many municipalities somewhere in the early 80s. And they were refreshed in the 90s, and they were more creative. The last time I looked at this in any good depth, and it was probably about 6 years ago, most police departments didn't have the proper equipment to measure decibel levels.
Right.
In some some municipalities, they have health departments. The state had one individual left that was still paying for this, and when he retired, that was gonna be the end of that. So, noise ordinances present a major enforcement issue. We'll take a look at this again and refresh some of my research and some of the stuff that we did before and see where we're going. But it's always on the enforcement.
I mean, we could tweak something with the hours as well. And that's something the three of us had already started talking about, was kind of changing the hours, making it a little later on weekend mornings, also being able to make noise, for lack of a better term, a little later on a Friday or Saturday. Different things like that.
It's not something that a police officer.
Well, the difficulty, I mean, to your point, I mean, hour changes are, it's a good step to many people, but there are a lot of people who work third shift on Friday and Saturday nights that be really ticked off about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a difficult situation. To your point, Rich, I think that enforcement is the tougher nut to crack, and that's the most important piece.
Police officer comes out and sees their neighbor shooting off municipal quality rockets, if you will. That's an easy one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Shut that down.
Yeah.
Officer goes out and sees heavy duty construction equipment started up before, most of them are like 7 in the morning. Sees equipment started up before 7 in the morning, interrupting the quiet of the neighborhood. An officer can shut that down. Same thing on the other end. The difficulty comes in with all these other types of noise during the day, the decibel readers. They don't have them. The officers aren't trained in them. And many times, I don't even know if the department has one. You're ahead of most.
Would it make sense to look at maybe pushing the enforcement to somebody else?
Well, I don't think it's
As
a
opposed to the
reflection on the
police.
police officer.
I'm not saying
It's-
the police.
No,
don't
no,
do
no, but I'm
anything
saying
wrong.
it's,
Definitely not a reflection of the
it's
police
just,
officer.
it's
We're
just
asking them to-
enforcement in general.
Yeah.
When the police get there, and they're probably the fastest to respond,
Mm.
a lot of times the sound is not there anymore. And that's, in,
Yeah, to
you
me,
know, Mr. Buckwalter's case, that's the problem.
yeah, I understand that.
Um,
And if you have a neighbors with a party and, you know, they see the police coming, they're gonna suddenly become very quiet.
Right.
I mean,
Unless it's a really good party.
this is a really good party,
Yeah.
then I might be over there anyway,
Yeah.
but, you know, the question is there anything else we can do? Because it is a really tough thing to do. I mean, I had my situation, it was because it was waking my 2-year-old up and scaring the crap out of her.
Right.
You know, on a Tuesday night, but it was an easy fix because you could see fireworks
Right.
from way down the road. It was no big deal.
Right.
Somebody playing the drums in the basement, but it's coming up and carrying into your house. You can't do anything about that. So, I don't know. I would just love to see that actually beefed up a little bit. I think that's an important piece that, you know, something important we can do.
And I don't want to speak for Nicole and Karen, but that's something the three of us struggled with. How do you do that?
Mm.
And how do you make it effective?
Does CCM have any recommendations? Do they have anything that would help us out?
I can look, but
Yeah,
I think
maybe-
everybody's kind of in the same
Yeah.
enforcement boat.
That has been part of it.
Yeah.
It's all about enforcement and across the board, everyone is handicapped.
Mhm.
The lack of tools and the lack of.
And in some cases, there is a lack of will. I know Candlewood Lake right now, there's a lot of noise issues in the summertime, and nobody wants to enforce it.
Right.
You just kind of, well, it's not our problem, so.
I think too, you know, Mr. Buckwalter, since he spoke about it, his is kind of a courtesy issue as well too. I think a simple courtesy that could be extended by his neighbor, that they're just choosing not to do that.
Can't force people to be nice.
True. So, but I mean, you can sense his frustration of 15 years of living. You know, I told him that if that's the issue, to call me directly when it's happening. Just call my cell phone and I'll come up and I'll go knock on the door of the police officer and say enough's enough. And then at least there's drumming going on, but he hasn't called me yet, so.
I'm sure he's not unique. I'm sure this
No,
probably
no.
happens in other places.
Yeah, I'm sure it
He's
does.
talking about drumming, but the loud music complaint.
Yeah.
We've heard over and over again, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
That's another one, and they're all.
Car
Not
engines.
being facetious, but when an officer does show up and there is a loud party, and they knock on the door, and they ask me to turn the music down, 9 times out of 10, somebody's turning the music, right,
Mhm.
thinking they're leaving. Where it's a different version of that.
When it's malicious.
Well, there's, right by Bungay Terrace and Bungay Court, there's the house, if you're going up, there's a house on the right-hand side, and one of the gentlemen that lives there, every car that goes up, they kind of have to hit the gas because it levels out and
Yeah.
steepens up. So cars and motorcycles come up, and they just inadvertently rev their engines, they have to do that. Drives the poor guy crazy, and I understand what he's saying, but, you know, unless we have a police officer stationed right there when it happens, there's no way really to enforce it. Now, and how many of the cars are actually outside the decibel level?
I haven't looked at this for a long time.
You know?
I'll have to go back and look at it, but there is a real problem with trying to apply noise ordinance to motor vehicles.
Yeah, it's tough.
Real problem. In my understanding.
I mean, particularly motorcycles when they, you know, they're just, the Harleys are just louder,
Yeah.
so.
I know.
All of our
But the
noise
34.
ordinances were based upon, my recollection, a TZ2 model ordinance that was put out. And everything we did was sort of based on. I'll pull it.
Anybody else with comments about noise?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Okay.
In my neighborhood, it's not music, it's not drums, pickup trucks. It's like every teenager in the neighborhood, every young adult in my neighborhood has a pickup truck, and they're all souped up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a better word to use. The engines make all this noise.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they like it.
Yeah.
But that would be my complaint in my
But that's
neighborhood.
to that person on Bungay Road, that gentleman's, same thing. How do you enforce that? So, I don't know. Anybody else on that? All right, so we'll have Rich come to our ordinance committee meeting and,
Can I make a comment on blight?
we're gonna move right through.
So, since Stephen brought up blight, let's move to blight. All right, just the, kind of getting back to the point I made at the last meeting and what Sean was talking about tonight, I think we need to seriously look into some sort of program to help people who have been, their properties have been marked as blighted, make the proper updates. I think, you know, as I said last week, I think that this should be, for lack of a better word, like a rehabilitative thing more than a punitive type of issue, as far as I'm concerned.
Actually, now that we've gotten, the biggest issue with having that in place has always been the cost of it, the money. Now that we received that $60,000 award that sits in that account, we can do things like that. So we can do the work and then lien the house to get recouped the funds. So we've never had the ability to do so. We now have the ability to do that. So that's something that Mike has been looking at. That money, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong so I don't misspeak, but the money that goes into, that we get in blight fines and goes into that account can only be used for blight-related issues. It doesn't go to the general fund. It can't go to any other thing. So that's something that we can start to work on.
Yeah, I understand. I just think it needs to be something that is to help the community as a whole in terms of hurt the community. And I think it is it's an issue that draws a fine line. I think we're on the right path here, though. That's all I want to say.
No, and just to that point, you know, and the point that Sean made up too, our blight ordinances are designed more to give people the opportunity to improve. It's not about collecting fines, it's about giving the people the opportunity to improve their property. Our current blight officer is actually very good at working with people, kind of finding the background information as to why maybe they're in the situation that they're in, and you know, giving somebody some extra time if they need it, if they've lost their job, or you know, their husband is in Iraq, their wife is in Iraq, something like that. You know, it's about getting the property cleaned up and benefiting the community, not about collecting fines and putting somebody in financial hardship. So, you know, and I agree, and Sean's point is well taken, that we can't narrow the scope of this too much that doesn't give us the flexibility to have some compassion for some things. And you know, we even talked about, there's some very specific definitions in there with regards to you know, service people, elderly, disabled people, waiving certain parts of the blight ordinance for them, and we actually talked about how we can expand that a little bit, and should we expand that. So, that point well taken.
Is there any has there any thought ever been given to creating some kind of group of maybe high schoolers or people in the community that would be able to go into these people's property and maybe clean up their yards or do minor repairs around?
We used to have that. That was the Seymour Pride
Yeah.
Committee. It was active for 3 or 4 years. I was a member on it way back when, but it kind of died out. It's just tough for people these days, not these days, but with everything everybody has going on, the last thing they want to do is go fix somebody else's house when they, with regularity, I should say. So, I mean, it's something we can put out there. I can have Rory look in to see if we can put something together. Yeah. I mean, I know, Basement Systems, Thule, bigger businesses like that have always said, they'll pick a day and they'll come out and they'll do something. They bring, 50, 60, 70 strong when they come. So, yeah, we can look into something that's a little bit more permanent like that.
Is this something we could potentially put, interns on for things like picking up trash or something like that
Good.
That was a good idea.
at some point?
'Cause I think there could definitely be interest if we could make this for, kids about to go into college, community service.
Mhm.
If we can make it even for some sort of, like Len was saying, like an intern program where you can maybe earn a college credit. It's
It could work well.
there's a lot of scenarios in the community that people would benefit from doing work from others or for others. I think it's a win-win, and I think people need to be pushed in that direction. Obviously, people aren't just going to volunteer to do it, but I think there would be a pretty good response. I think personally.
I think it's a great idea to push the community service or internships. We just need to make sure the legal side of that.
Sure. Well, didn't the blight officer indicate that in addition to the $60,000, he wanted to hire landscapers and whatnot, but he also mentioned, I think, volunteers, see if he can get volunteers to help.
What he wanted to do is he wanted to buy essentially a trailer and fill it with all sorts of equipment. And just the town has that and it's available. So let's say you and 5 of your buddies want to go help person down the street. Well, here's the thing, you come, you take the equipment, you go do, and you bring it back when you're done. So he had talked about something like that, very simple version for what you're talking about. But, I mean, he's thinking the same thing. So maybe we do something like that, and maybe we start to bring in these interns and volunteers, and, we provide them the equipment, and
I mean, if
They do that.
If we create a program, we need the equipment. So
Right.
it goes hand in hand.
yeah, so I mean, that's, something we can certainly look into. And I'm sure the blight officer would be very much on board with that.
Yeah.
So.
I think we should put word out at the high school, because,
yeah.
the Hope Club,
Mm-hmm.
they used to do, that kind of activity.
Well, yeah, and I know a lot of the high schools have to do a certain amount of community. I mean, my son
Right,
Pickley's
right.
got to do 100 hours of community service to graduate. So, he's trying to knock up 25 hours a year.
Right, and the parochial schools do too.
Yeah,
as
so,
well
I mean,
as
it's-
their programs.
It's good. So I love to put them to work too. That'd be fun. So, okay, so I know we've kind of bounced around a little bit, but any other comments on anything in general then, I guess?
I would just.
Stefan, anything else you want to, on blight? I mean,
Good, thanks.
anything on adult business? We'll put you on
I
the
think
spot
we need
first.
to, I think we need to study that ordinance.
I just, hold on, I want to put him on the spot. It's just because he's going to blush a little.
Well, no, this is
Oh, wait, geez.
this is my favorite ordinance. Without a doubt. No, no, I think I've gotten a lot of clarification
Yeah.
about it, and I think I'm a lot more comfortable with it than I was previously.
Okay. And just to follow up on some of the questions that Stefan had asked, right now, our blight ordinance talks primarily about massage parlors. It really doesn't get into other types of businesses per se. Karen brought in something which I gave to Rory, which we'll have for our ordinance committee meeting. It starts to define things a little bit better. It's actually probably 6 or 7 pages of just definitions of what's what. So I think the three of us need to really sit down and kind of dig in how narrow a scope do we want to have with this. So I guess that's the question I'll put out to the board now. How narrow a definition do we want to have of this? Do we want to allow anything? Rich, by law, can we say none whatsoever?
You should regulate, not prohibit. With that said, parents look vaguely familiar to me as they're looking at it with it. And, why don't I run the local ordinance, which I may have told you in the past, which, is something we're very familiar with, and that is, in part,
Yeah, that'll be good.
What was the net impact on that?
It's significant.
Did they essentially regulate out all of those businesses?
They're regulating in accordance with the law.
Okay.
And that's the one thing that concerned us. Do we go too far and get ourselves in trouble? So, but we don't want to have a derby situation either where a business comes in and 4 or 5 months later, you're paying them $30,000 or $40,000 to make them leave. We
No.
certainly don't want to get into that situation either. So,
I think the problem with the entire topic, and I know I brought it up, is what Potter Stewart said. You know, I can't tell you what pornography is, but I know it when I see it.
well, based on what you handed out, it's pretty well defined.
Oh, it's,
And that, I mean, that defines everything, that ordinance that Karen brought in. It defines everything.
Very comprehensive.
Yeah, it's,
comprehensive is a good word.
so. All right, any other comments in general on the 3 ordinances? Anything anyone else wants to add? And as I said, the 3 of us will find a date for next week. We'll meet with Rich. We'll get going. We'll have something back. We'll try to have something for the second meeting in March, so we can move this along and hopefully have these ordinances in effect for late springtime. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 15, discussion regarding potential regionalization services with Ansonia. We've taken care of a few of the issues, a few of the situations. The 2 that have been addressed so far are the building inspector and engineering. And what we've determined is we're going to use the same people, but Seymour is going to pay its own share, and Ansonia is going to pay its own share. So Jim Baldwin is going to work 25 hours a week for Seymour and 20 hours a week for Ansonia. If it'll give us an opportunity now to study to see if it makes sense, if he's able to get all the work done that's necessary. We're also looking at some overlapping of Jim being in the office in the afternoon, and Nick Bahoon, who is Ansonia's building inspector, being in the office in the morning. If a Seymour resident needs a building permit, they can go to Ansonia to get signed off, and vice versa. Ansonia people can come to Seymour in the afternoon. So by doing it this way, it makes it very easy for us to pull apart if it doesn't work. So there's no issue with employees or anything like that. We're doing the same thing with engineering. Ansonia will be appointing Brian Nesteriak, town engineer for roads and drainage, and Don Smith, engineer for buildings and special projects. And we're going to do the same thing that way. So we're going to try to have some conformity. Did get a message today. Ansonia would like to sit down and discuss the potential regionalization of ambulance service. So we're going to let the 2 ambulance companies first sit down and have those discussions to see if it makes sense. If it does, then myself and Mayor Cassetti will get involved to see if it makes sense on that end. And then the last piece that we're looking at is animal control. We're still trying to determine how that would make sense, what the feasibility of that would be. I don't have any real updates on that yet because we're still working through that. Ansonia has a full-time employee and a part-time employee. I believe we have 2 part-time employees. So how would it work? How would we cover everything that needs to be covered using the existing employees that we have? But more importantly, 1 animal shelter, and how would that work? Seymour has an animal shelter in need of work. Ansonia has an animal shelter in need of work. Ours, I think, is a little bit bigger in a little bit better condition, but I'm sure that can be argued on either side. And so between the 2 towns, we both have about $100,000 in the fiscal year 16 budget that can immediately be invested into a facility of some type. So we need to decide what's going to be the best course of action. So the animal control officer in Ansonia is an actual employee. The animal control officer in Seymour is an appointed position. So we need to work through and figure out how all that's going to work. So don't have anything concrete yet, anything specific on that. We're still working through. But again, I wanted to keep putting it up to see if there's any feedback, any thoughts, any comments from you, so I can at least have that information when I'm having these discussions. Any comments, thoughts?
Would there be issues with the PSA for the ambulance proposal?
I don't think so. I think it's something we would have to apply to the state for that. That's why I want the two companies to agree that it's something that makes sense first before we do that. Again, Seymour Ambulance is a separate organization from the town of Seymour. It's run by volunteers, though they do have paid professional staff. ARMS is a little bit different. It's actually an entity of the town of, or excuse me, the city of Ansonia, and they are employees. So we have to figure out how all that's going to work. One of the things that Seymour Ambulance is doing is they are looking at a model with a part-time executive director as opposed to a full-time. One, I think, to give them more flexibility just down the road for cost-wise, but two, if they were to merge in some scenario, that would give that position the ability to do so. Thoughts, comments? No? Rich, anything? Absolutely. And the the ambulance one just came this afternoon, just came across, so. And again, a lot of these folks are partners on the VEMS board and as part of the VEMS operation, so there's a lot of familiarity with each other, so. Okay. And again, it's a big push by the state of Connecticut, particularly in our COG with the shared services, to try to regionalize and merge as many things as possible. We'll be meeting hopefully next week with myself, Tony Caserta, Rick Belden, and Christine Syriac to discuss the joint operations department for the town. We want to put something together to be able to present that to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education prior to summertime. So that's kind of on a local issue. Okay, if there's no other comments, questions? Item number 16, discussion and take possible action regarding LED street light conversion. Rich and Rory. I mean, I can give an update, but I want to give Rory something to do tonight.
So we had been waiting, if you recall, on getting the numbers from Eversource. And it finally came in, which is good. I remember it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 150, I think, for our 1,100 fixtures. It's not bad. It also came with a complete inventory, which is really good. One thing that we still have to do, and we've been waiting for good weather, is we don't have a count on all of the, we want to include all the lights in parks and all the parking lots on municipal property. We don't have any numbers for that. And they won't have the fixture types, but it would be a small number, I would imagine, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, I would think, throughout town. So someday soon, I'm just going to drive around so that we can get it done and over with. And at that point, it's just a matter of really getting the RFP to them. So,
Yeah, I would expect the RFP will be out by the middle of March at the latest at this point. So again, we should have something in place or some stuff back by the end of spring, and hopefully the project will take shape for the summertime. But again, we did just get the information beginning of last week, and I think it would have been cruel of me to send poor Rory out in the freezing weather to count lighting fixtures. So, but any questions on that? I know you all gave feedback on the RFP, but it's something we are moving along with. No? Rich, anything you wanna add? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Rory. Item number 17 is executive session. We have no executive session tonight. Item number 18, appointments. We also have no appointments tonight. Item number 19, tax refunds and abatements. Nicole?
The following overpayments of tax payments in total of $1,048.86 need to be approved for refund in accordance with the provisions of Section 12-129 of the Connecticut General Statutes, dated at Seymour, the 11th day of February 2016, Dana Flock Tax Office.
Thank you, Nicole. this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept the tax collector's report as presented. Motion by Nicole, second by Stefan. Just under discussion, everybody review, make sure you have no conflicts or issues. Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 20, transfers. We have no transfers before us tonight. Item number 21, correspondence. We have one piece of correspondence, which is the check registry. Okay, with that, we'll move to item number 22, public comment. Is there any public comments? Is there any public comments? Hearing no public comment, we'll close public comment. Okay, go ahead. Please state your name and address for the record. Sean, lack of sleep, buddy.
Are you gonna sing?
Not this time.
Okay.
One night I'm going to do the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by
There
Gordon
you go,
Lightfoot.
great
It's gonna
song.
it's going to be awesome.
Sean, remember when I told you to cut you off?
Sean Walsh, 126 Pearl Street. I just want to add a couple things to the discussion we had previously. I want to thank you. The 10 minutes you spent talking about ways to fix people's houses is more than any committee has ever done since this was incepted in like 2002. So at least that's something. The other thing is, if you're going to have an ordinance meeting, I have all the minutes, as Len had requested. I have all the minutes, all the newspaper articles, everything, all the specifics. I have notes from taxpayers that were involved and what the specifics are, why they were dropped. I have pretty much every document you could ask for. So when you're going to have your committee meeting, if you could let me know, I'll have all that information for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Sean. Is there any other public comment? Is there anyone who slept since Sunday that would like to make some public comment? Okay. Hearing none. Close public comment. We'll move on to item number 23, Selectmen's public comment. Stephen, good luck trying to top that.
Never. I could never. All I want to say is this, my monthly dinner out, I'll call it, is going to be next Wednesday, the 24th, and tentatively scheduled for 7 p.m. at Pub 67. I invite anyone in town to come out, voice their concerns, or just share dinner with me. Thanks.
Do you pay for dinner?
I pay for myself, but, I could entertain a motion to...
Well, like me with the pizza, I think I can get a motion for you to buy everybody dinner. That's not a problem. Thank you, Stephen. Karen?
Yep, just a couple of things. First of all, if you look at our website, instead of saying Board of Selectmen, it says man.
Really?
There are 7 of us.
I'm the only one
I like to think I'm the only one that counts. Rory, can you look into that? That's probably been there for a while then. Whereabouts on the website?
I'm not sure, it was brought to my attention.
Okay. Rory, can you check on that tomorrow and make the corrections?
Just make it plural instead of, singular.
I thought you were going to go with the select woman thing.
Well,
That's where I thought you were going with that, so I
you
apologize.
know what? If we could say, if it didn't
Select
violate
person.
the charter,
Select person, right?
and we could say the select people, which I consider we are, that'd be great. Bless.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry about that.
You all set?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. I also wanted to thank the town of Seymour for flying the flag at half-staff for Judge Antonin Scalia. I think it's a wonderful honor that we are observing. I looked very quickly at the post office. Their flag was not at half-staff when I got here.
Yeah, no, that's, we're very fortunate. We make a donation to the American Legion of $100 a month, and they maintain all the flags in town, which is good. So everything is as it should be,
Okay.
which is nice. It benefits them, it helps us. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. So I agree with you. I saw
Well, I
that.
mean, the governor and the president did order
Order
the
that,
flags to be at half-staff.
Yep.
I do want to compliment and thank Public Works. They did a terrific job on my road after the last 2 snowstorms. It was a little rough in the beginning, and I know it was very heavy snow, but I got in and out without any problem, and I just drive a little bitty car. I don't have a Jeep or anything, so I just want to thank them very much.
Yeah, they came in Monday at 7, and they left today at 3:15. So none of them
Well,
went
the
home.
plow went past my house 4 times,
Yeah.
so I just want to thank them for that.
We used more, and this is gonna make Sean cringe or probably make him throw something at me, but we used more product for this storm than we did for the previous 12-inch storm. So they put a lot of stuff down to try to make the road safe.
Okay.
So guys did a good job. Okay.
And my last comment on a personal note. I've been informed that Mrs. Claridis has resigned from the Board of Education for family reasons, and I want to wish the family all the best.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm welcome, Colton, thank you for that.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
All right, Nicole?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Anne Marie?
I want to repeat Karen's comment about the Board of Works, Public Works doing an awesome job on the roads. It was nice being able to leave my house this morning and get in there, and Route 8 wasn't that nice. Get to Cheshire and didn't even drop a plow. So Seymour Roads rocked, Cheshire stunk. Just had to say that. But I also, on a serious note, want to mention flag at French Park. They
Mhm.
ripped.
Which one?
The big one that Mr. Giacomosco
Oh,
put up.
no.
Yep, I noticed that when I was sitting on Route 8, because there was an accident. And you could see that the red and the white stripes
Yep.
are torn apart.
Hadn't noticed that. We have, we're not sure who's gonna pay for it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Mr. Jakomowski has offered to do it, Rotary has offered to do it, and we have money in the budget to do it. So there's certainly plenty of money to get it repaired, it's just, or replaced. I'm just not sure who's gonna do it. The flags are supposed to last 6 months.
Well, you know,
So-
we had the rains, the freezing rains,
Yes.
cold temperatures, and that would just take a
Yep.
killer on those flags.
Roy, can you have, yep, we'll take care of that, thank you. I hadn't noticed that, so,
And I had to sit on Route 8 because of the accident.
excellent. Anything else for you?
No, that's all. I just want to congratulate the Seymour High School cheerleaders again for taking first place over the weekend.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Len?
And I have nothing to that.
Wow, all right, after all that prepping. Okay.
One for this.
Rich, anything? Fantastic, I think I've spoken more than enough, so at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
I love how Karen just goes straight to the second now. Motion by Anne Marie, second by Karen, is there any discussion?
That fast.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, chair votes aye, motion passes 6-0. Mark the meeting closed at 7:59 PM. Thank you very much, everyone.